GOP South Carolina Senator Tim Scott joins us now with what he took from yesterday's hearing. Senator, I sense your frustration in reading your comments and talking to you now in the break. We did what they said. Now can we please have our country back?
We have to, Brian. Here's the fact. Our country needs to start the process of re-engaging the concept of being in business. It's who we are. It's what we do, and we should get back to doing what we do really well. Bottom line is this. If you look at states like South Carolina or, frankly, the Dakotas, where they've had fewer than 100 deaths in both Dakotas combined, we have 5 million people in our state, about 350 deaths. Any death is a death too many. However, if you put in the category of those things that you cannot do under the shutdown, if you have cancer, you've had to put off your oncology treatments and appointments. If you needed a heart stent, that was considered elective surgery. That has major health care consequences to the individuals and to our nation. There are millions of people who have been shuttered from their employers. You add the numbers who are working plus their family members, we could see 50, 60, 70 million Americans without health insurance. This is a tragedy. We can go back to work and solve a lot of these problems. And frankly, South Carolina, we are doing it right. We've seen a static case level. We've seen our hospital capacity more now than before the virus started. We can isolate the hot spots to mitigate the spread of the virus. We've had a 7-fold increase in contact tracers, and we're adding 1,400 more this month.
Right.
In addition to that, we're going to test every single patient or resident in an elderly facility, every single one in South Carolina. And that's how you start the engines, and let's get ready to rumble.
And that's why Senator Fauci, Senator, that's why Dr. Fauci said South Carolina seems to be the model. So that's great. But the problem is, and I feel like I'm in the minority here, they say, according to a Pew poll, 68% of Americans say they have greater concern about opening up too soon than too slow. Only 31% are worried about opening up too slow. I haven't met many of those people. Why aren't people, where's that mindset? Do you believe this poll?
I think the numbers are off. Here's what I saw recently this morning, as a matter of fact. 2/3 of college students say with treatment or without treatment, with vaccine or without vaccine, I want to be sitting in a classroom come the fall. That's August, by the way. So we're seeing a sense of urgency about getting this place open back up. And here's the other thing, Brian, that we should keep into consideration. Let's get it in focus. 99.9% of us will be okay at the end of this entire pandemic.
Yes, and the problem is, I'm led to believe, just by looking at what's going on with red and blue states, the blue governors are reluctant to open up their states, and the red seem more than willing to do it. And I'm wondering if you see politics in this.
I smell the stench of politics, partisan politics driving behavior for election results, not focusing on super sound science, as Dr. Scott Atlas said. Super sound science is where we should focus our attention. That leads us to the conclusion that if you don't have two underlying conditions, the chances are you're going to be okay. If you're under the age of 60, the chances are really high you're going to be okay. And in South Carolina, if you're under the age of 20, we've had not a single death. So we have a lot to celebrate, and we need to look at the information and the facts through a prism of optimism and not simply through the prism of the worst case scenario every single time we start talking about the pandemic.
Simple. Trust the American people to be responsible, from wearing masks to plexiglass in buildings to desocialization, in order to get our economy and our country back. There's a huge downside that nobody's talking about outside the president to not working and not doing anything and writing checks on an account that has no money in it, especially the $3 trillion that Democrats want to spend. Senator, can't thank you enough for joining us.
Absolutely.
Right. And watch South Carolina, watch Georgia, look at Florida, and learn from it. Appreciate it, Senator.
God bless.